The year is 1905. Your baby was just eaten by a crocodile, and your other 4 children are getting hungry. The only way your family is going to survive is if you drive your herd of cattle hundreds of miles to auction by horse and carriage. This way of life didn't seem like much, but it was the beginning of what we call modern-day overlanding. I bet they didn't know that hundreds of years later, millennials would be doing the same thing in Subaru Outbacks and complaining about gas prices and crowded trails. That Subaru is just really sparkling. I'm Carter from FORGED4x4, and here's everything you need to know about the history of overlanding. In the early 1900s, our brothers and Sheilas from down under, the Australians were busy working hard on farms, raising cattle, growing crops, and trying not to die by way of literally everything that lives in Australia. Seriously, everything is trying to freaking kill you down there. The koalas have syphilis. Is that everything? Sheila, a dingo's got a baby! But when the seasons started changing, they had to travel huge distances with their livestock to either transport them to be traded or find new plains to graze. What seemed like normal, monotonous farm work ended up sparking a global movement dedicated to the preservation of all things adventure. We're talking about overlanding. Overlanding is self-reliant overland travel to remote destinations where the journey is the principal goal. Typically, but not exclusively, it's accomplished with mechanized, off-road capable transport from bicycles to trucks, where the principal form of lodging is camping, often lasting for extended lengths of time, months or even years, spanning international boundaries. According to Wikipedia, we didn't come up with that one. So if you're taking a weekend trip to the desert and sleeping in your tent, sorry to tell you, that's just car camping, bro. Since Australia is so ungodly large and journeys were extremely long to get to different regions, farmers frequently traveled to take their livestock to new grazing locations or for trade purposes. And then when construction workers began paving those trails, the farmers used the term overlanding was used to describe the terrain of the outback. But overlanding as a concept has been going on for hundreds of years, even as early as the 13th century. Some popular journeys a little more recent include George A. Windman's journey from San Francisco to New York back in 1903 on his motorized bicycle. The journey ended up taking him close to 2 months to complete. Pierce Arrow debuted the Touring Lando in 1910, which had a rear seat that converted into a bed, a fold-down sink, and a chamber pot. What's a chamber pot? Henry Ford's Model T hadn't been on the road long when enterprising craftsmen began constructing elaborate motorhome bodies on them. By 1923, you could buy a kit from Zegelmeyer Auto Group Company that would convert your Model T into a pop-up camper with fold-down side beds. Post-World War II, everything changed, partially due to the introduction of civilianized Jeeps. World War II champs, baby! Woo!
Ding dong! It's America, motherfucker!
Also introduced were the Land Rover and a little bit later the Land Cruiser, as well as other affordable four-wheel drive vehicles. The 1950s and 60s witnessed an explosion of outdoor recreation, thanks in part to our good old buddy Teddy Roosevelt, getting those national parks locked down for life.
Will you accept my final rose?
In 1953, Don Hall introduced an Alaskan camper with rigid walls and a lifting roof, supposedly modeled after his wife's hatchbox. In 1972, Dave Rowe lightened the concept considerably with soft sides and produced the four-wheel camper. These products pioneered the idea of a comfortable camper that only minimally reduced and still gave you access to remote backcountry destinations while providing a weatherproof, self-contained shelter. And then now it just looks like a little rape shelter. 50s campers are not. They're very, very creepy. Don't go in those, kids. With so many different options for extreme off-roading travel, what are some true modern overlanding rigs today? In my eyes, there's 2 different types of overlanders. The weekend warrior, not overlanding, and the expeditionist. Weekend warriors typically use their own cars, slap an RTT on top and build out some storage for all their gear. From Subarus, Tacomas, Jeeps, and 4Runners, the biggest limit these rigs have is enough water storage and general space to travel more than 3 to 5 days without additional support or stops. By far, these rigs are the most popular option for overlanding because it doesn't require a heavy investment, just some elbow grease, some imagination, and a couple awesome products. Now, Expeditionists consist of a full truck bed conversions, decked out land cruises, off-road trailer setups, to the extreme F550 $650,000 plus Earth Roamer. Australians, in my opinion, are still dominating the forefront when it comes to off-road and overland rigs because they really build their rigs to go out in the middle of nowhere. Typically, these rigs operate as comprehensive off-road homes with all of the amenities to keep you comfortable, such as solar power, shower, onboard water storage, onboard air, full recovery setup, welding solutions, additional fuel. The sky's the limit. And when you start thinking about being hundreds of miles away from civilization with no cell phone service, going over rocky and treacherous terrain, you're really on your own if something happens. As you can see, the possibilities are endless when it comes to building and exploring in the true overlanding rig, and the industry isn't slowing down anytime soon. Once the pandemic hit in 2020, it seemed like the only place you could go was into the wilderness. And a revolution of sorts emerged with people figuring out how awesome the great outdoors really is. And with the amount of unique rigs out there, from buses and vans to close to $1 million earth roamers, there are definitely an infinite number of ways that you can bring on the wild. We started our company in 2019 with the goal of building an overland and off-road community that is really passionate about the same things that we are. So if you like what you see and you want more of it, consider subscribing. It helps us get motivated to create new content every week. And if you are already an overlander, post a picture or leave us a comment on what you're driving. We love seeing other people's rigs, and we'll make sure to send you a like or something too. I don't know, repost it, whatever the kids do nowadays. Thanks for watching, guys. Bring on the wild.